Rock and metal invasion. Rock and metal invasion. Rock and metal invasion. Rock and metal invasion.
Hi, welcome to Rock and Metal Invasion. My name is Steve. Coming up on the show today, I'm doing Home Taping is Killing Music. So you might know about this particular term or this logo that came into existence in the early 80s. And it might have been something that you have seen either on the insert for your record or on the back cover. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I guess, why that came into existence, what that meant, and how that relates to the music industry these days. So basically, what happened was a lot of people back in the day, and I was one of them, would have these blank cassettes. So you could buy these blank cassettes. And you could, if you wanted to, borrow a record from a friend and you could tape that album, that record, or even another cassette. You could tape their cassette if you had the double cassette recording option and tape their cassette onto your blank cassette. Likewise, you could also listen to the radio, and this is something I know a lot of people my age sort of did back in the day there. Uh, Annoyingly, often the DJ would be talking over the intro to the song, so you'd either have to tape it and have his voice over the intro to the song, or wait for him to stop speaking before you hit record. But often those DJs would talk all through the instrumental introduction and only stop once it got to the vocals. But anyway, but you could do that. So you could tape songs off the radio as well. And I guess the feeling was that this was a copyright violation, that you were in effect stealing music. So they were trying to encourage people to not do home taping. But at the same time, there were blank cassettes out there for people to purchase. And of course, you had to buy these blank cassettes, but they were a lot cheaper than buying an actual album. And you could sometimes, depending on the amount of minutes on the blank cassette, you could even get more than one album on a blank cassette. So they came in different lengths. I remember often the C90 was the one I would get. So, it'd have actually 90 minutes, 45 minutes on each side. So it's quite a lot of music. Often I would find if I was taping albums, because back in these days again, you're talking the vinyl days. This was before the CD days. You could, fit quite a few. You could fit an album on a side because they wouldn't load up the albums with too many songs. About 10 songs, 45 minutes was usually about right. You could usually fit a whole album onto one side of the cassette, turn it over, and then do another album. Likewise, like I said, you could tape other things as well, tape off the radio, or tape off another cassette. So, no doubt about it, I'm sure that there were people, or artists, or musicians, record companies, of course, are really who's worried about this, who didn't get money for albums that people would have bought, but they were able to tape it off a friend, or maybe they just wanted that one or two song, those one or two songs. There's people like that who just want the one or two songs, and rather than buy the album to get it, or even buy it as a single, they just tape it off the radio. So there was a feeling that these blank cassettes were not good for music. In fact, a little bit of an exaggeration, of course. It's killing music. It wasn't killing music. Of course, it's kind of ironic now when we look at it because, really, internet was, the internet, you could argue, has actually, that's what's killed music. But yeah, no, it didn't really. Yeah, like I say, I'm sure there's people who lost some sales from it. Sales might have been bigger if people weren't able to do that. But I think also that if people really liked the album, really liked the song, then a lot of just like today, for people who like physical media, you'd actually want to go out and get the actual album yourself, have the physical product, because again, you get that physical product, you get all the other things that come with it, the lyrics, the insert, the pictures, information. With a blank cassette, that's all it is, and it's not that great to display or have on your shelf particularly, but it is good to listen to the music. And the sound quality I found usually was okay. You tape it off a vinyl or tape it off another cassette. It would be pretty good. Taping off radio, maybe not always so good, but yeah, and of course there were different qualities of blank cassettes as well that would influence the quality of the sound that you got. But Yeah, so what I thought I'd do is just show you some records in my collection that actually have this logo on it. And there's some slight variations. Now, I don't have that many, surprisingly, and I guess the thing to remember here is it's a UK thing pretty much, or European thing, but mainly it seems to be UK label. So, or UK pressing. So it doesn't mean because uh the in the example I'm going to show you that your copy of this album will have this on because it might not be the UK press of it. Okay, so it's pretty much UK or maybe I know of an example. I don't have one of like where Europe or German pressings have this, but it seems to mainly be UK pressings. And I'm running sort of more familiar and only really going to talk more about the hard rock and heavy metal records that have this label or logo on it. And I'm sure for a lot of people they've seen it, but you may not know whether you've actually got one of these albums that have that logo in your collection. If you're in the UK, good chance, and you've got records from the early 80s, good chance that you will. US, definitely not. That wasn't something that they did. But of course, these days, again, with the internet, some of us are buying things from different countries and getting them, shipped over. So who knows? You might have one in your collection. So and like I said, there's a couple of slight little variations, and so I wanted to talk about that as well. So it's very small, but I'll show you the example that I've got. And this is interesting because this is actually 1984. So it's quite late. This started in 81 and didn't really last much longer than it was. I think 81, 82 was the kind of peak time for this. And it pretty much stopped after 84. But this is American Heartbeat. It's quite a cool compilation, actually. Great songs on it. You got Asia, Blue Oyster Cult, Boston, all the classic rock, hard rock from the early 80s, mid 80s, well, going up to 84 anyway. But it has got, and you probably won't really be able to see it because it's so small, but it has got the music, Taping is Killing Music logo. And what that logo is like a cassette with skull and cross, well, it's just crossbones, really. But yeah, just crossbones at the bottom of it. And yeah, so it's very hard to see, but I'll be able to show you. They also put that on the insert sometimes as well. So they didn't put it on the insert for this record, but they did put it on the insert for the UK press of Black Sabbath Live Evil. So they don't have that logo on the back cover. This is such a cool album cover. I love the album art on this. But they do have it on the inserts. And I've got the original inserts. Now, because this is a double, it's got two inserts. Now, this one, the first one, it's just white insert, and it's just got a copyright notice, important notice here, okay? Copyright notice there. Nothing about Taping Killing Music. But if we go to record number 2, and we pull this out, there we go. You can see the logo. Home Taping is Killing Music. And then it's got the cassette, and then it's got the crossbones there. Now, also, it has underneath it, and it's illegal. Now, my understanding is there are some examples where and it's illegal is not put on there. And I think what happened was that initially these were coming out and it wasn't actually illegal. Maybe they made some law, I don't know, but they certainly did change it. Initially, it didn't have "and it's illegal" written down the bottom, and then they started changing it. So there's not, I don't think it's that common, but there are some examples where it doesn't say "and it's illegal" at the bottom. It just says "Home Taping is Killing Music." So there we go. So that's really the two examples. But I just one more I wanted to show, and it's neither of those examples, but it's a similar situation. So this is Lee Aaron and Metal Queen. Now on the back, it doesn't have the logo, and you won't be able to see this, but it does say does have written down here. If you enjoyed this album, please help the artist. Get your friends to buy a copy, not tape yours. So that's, from my memory, this is the only album I've got, or that I know of, that actually had something like that written down. So again, they're not using any logo or any sort of, particular thing that like Taping is Killing Music. Not using that, they're just actually just asking you nicely, hey, if you like this album, don't let your friend tape it, basically. This is on Attic, so maybe it was something Attic did with some of the other artists. I don't know, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. And this is probably a 84 release, I think, maybe even 83. I'm not actually sure when this one came out. Probably 84, I think. But see if I can find a date on here. Yeah, 84. Sorry, yeah, 84. So yeah, so again, 84, it's still an issue and they're still kind of trying to stop it. But after that, they just kind of just embraced it. It was like, and I think also maybe they just started to realize, well, we're still some of these we're still selling a lot of records and tapes and stuff. It's a bit of an issue, but it's not really a big issue. Again, not like what happened with the internet. Spotify, Napster, all that kind of stuff. That you know, file sharing, all that sort of stuff did actually become much more of an issue. So it really wasn't. So I think they stopped. Now, what they did do, and I'm going to show you a video clip in a minute. I'll just finish with this video clip where they actually talk about the fact that uh, they this is probably only in the UK. They added like a little sort of like a charge, a tax that if you when you bought a blank cassette. So I guess that money. So it was just it's almost like a little. It's like a tax. They're taxing the blank cassette. So you wouldn't notice it, but basically when you go and buy your blank cassette, you're paying a little bit of tax as well, and then that money was going to go to the record companies to kind of cover the money that they're potentially losing by people buying blank cassettes and not actually buying albums. But of course, we don't know what they're using that blank cassette for necessarily. It doesn't necessarily mean they're taping albums. They could be doing other legitimate things. It's not copyright violations, but that was probably pretty rare. But so yeah, so there was a tax I think applied. I don't know how long that lasted for. I mean, blank cassettes were still kind of being used for quite a long time. Even I remember using them still in the 90s. But granted, I had a tape Walkman up until like 2010, something like that. So, who knows? But yeah, so that was kind of interesting. Just before I played this video clip, so this is a video that the BBC did in 1986, sort of again talking about the fact that blank cassettes potentially taking money away from the record companies, so they're going to add this tax. But before I do that, I just want to talk about some albums that you might have in your collection, especially if they're UK pressings. You might be able to find the logo on either the back cover or on the insert. So for the back cover, if you look at Judas Priest, you've got Judas Priest here. This is like probably the original press. Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance. That has on the back cover, Taping is Killing Music. Aldo Nova, the debut Aldo Nova album, that has it. Now, I've got all these albums, but I can't show examples because I don't have UK pressings. But that's got it on the back cover. Interesting one, Angel Witch. So their 1984 album. So that's actually got it on the back cover. And I was a little bit surprised about that because I don't know, I just thought maybe that wouldn't be something a band like Angel Witch would do. They came out on I think the Kilowatt label. But anyway, so that had it on. Rose Tattoo, they've got it on there, on their back cover. Scarred for Life, yeah, again, it's UK 1982 press. Saxon have it as well, again, UK press on their live album, The Eagle Has Landed. Girls' School now with Girls' School and Demolition, it's not on the back cover, it's on the insert. So exactly like what I showed you with the Black Sabbath example. Now also reissued albums, so albums that weren't released in 1981, 82, but being reissued on vinyl. So the 1982 reissue on vinyl of Blackmore's Rainbow Rising. Again, if you look on the insert, and it's a UK press, you might find Taping is Killing Music. We should do if you've still got the insert. Now, of course, a lot of people have got rid of those inserts as well and replaced them with better ones, but you might find that. Also, this is a good example of what I was talking about before. AC/DC, again, it's a vinyl reissue, but it's from 1981, so a little bit earlier than 82, because a lot of these examples are 82. If You Want Blood by AC/DC, vinyl reissue, UK press, the insert has home taping is Killing Music, but it doesn't have and it's illegal on there. So that's sort of what made me think that uh, initially that it didn't have that, and then they put that in there later. Whether they just decided, hey, let's just add that in there because we feel like it is illegal, or maybe some law change happened. And well, one more example, More, the second More album, Blood and Thunder. Now, what's interesting about that? That's not a UK pressing. That's a German pressing, and that also came out on the Atlantic label. But again, it's 1982, and that just has it on the back cover. So pretty much, I think almost all those albums I've got, but I can't show you examples of them because they're not those specific pressings. But yeah, so there we go. Home taping is killing music. Quite an interesting little story, and also, other people have kind of made fun of it as well. I think there were like a couple of bands who actually encouraged you. They put out what's the name of it? Maybe it was it Bow Wow? They actually put out a cassette, and one side they actually left blank. So it was like had their music on one side, and the other side was blank for you to record your own music. And I think other bands might have done that as well. Venom also, I think, had like some sort of a logo saying something like home taping is killing music, and so is Venom. And then there's also, even now, sort of a more modern sort of version that you might see as a sort of a parody, a bit of a joke, is something like um, home sewing is killing fashion, or something like that, sort of like making fun of it. So it's kind of got retro appeal now, but it definitely doesn't really, obviously it's not something that's an issue these days. They've got other issues. The music industry's got other issues now, not home taping. Although I've got to be honest with you, I do have some blank tapes, and from time to time, I like to put on a blank tape, put on a vinyl, and make a little mixtape. Yep, I know it's weird, and maybe I shouldn't be still doing that at my age, but it's kind of fun. And you so I put on a record, and I'll just put on one song, hit the record on my blank cassette, and just kind of create a little mixtape. I don't do it a lot, but every now and then it's kind of fun to do. So. And of course, we can always, it's so easy now too to make these mixtapes, either like YouTube playlists or Spotify playlists, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's not really something that people do now. And you can actually, I think, still get blank cassettes, and you can find them probably at secondhand stores and things like that as well. But and the thing is too with the blank cassette is they're reusable. Now, I remember going to like a charity shop, op shop, when you want to call it, and finding a blank cassette, and it didn't have anything on it, but like it didn't have anything written on it. But when I thought, oh, I'll buy it because it's really cheap, it was like 50 cents or something. I'll use that to just tape some music. I got it home, but it was always fun to kind of just, well, I'll just play it and just see what's on here, right? And then I hear this like killer guitar riff, and I think, what is this song? This is amazing. Great song. But of course, because it had nothing written on it, I didn't know what it was. And it took me a while, but at some point, maybe when I actually got the album, I found out it was Lita Ford and Lady Killer. And that was the song and actually it was songs from that particular album. But I was really enjoying the album, so I never taped over that blank tape and would play it the whole time thinking, I don't know who this is, but I really like it. But so yeah, that was always kind of fun as well. All right, well, that's it for today's show. I'm going to finish with this news article by the BBC. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure you hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you later.
Times the cost of one blank cassette, home taping makes economic sense. With top 20 albums selling at about 5 times the cost of one blank cassette, home taping makes economic sense, for the customer at least. It's estimated it costs the record industry millions of pounds in lost sales.
Radio 1 plays 5-star Suzanne Vega and the Alarms Music.
Nearly half the country's teenagers tape music from records or the radio. At the moment, it's illegal, because it infringes the law of copyright. But now the government admits it can't be stopped. So, the 10% levy, to be paid by the manufacturers. The government says it's up to them whether the extra cost is passed on to the customer. The music industry says copyright owners lose around £70 million a year in royalties. The levy would raise about £6 million.
It would be some compensation for the loss of copyright which composers and performers have had to bear for many years. And many of them feel it very, very strongly, and I think they're quite right. It's something that it's their livelihood, and I think that they should be compensated for it.
Blank video cassettes would not come into the net. The government says they're used to a far lesser extent by the home taping pirates. And computer programs, including those of the Space Invaders kind, would still be protected by copyright.